Welcome to the Sacred Ancestry Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Worm, and today I'm so excited for this guest, such a special person. Her name is Lisa Gumieniuk, and she went through a healing journey after being so overwhelmed by stress and an overworked type life. And after that, she really went through this healing journey that changed her life, and now she's changing other people's lives through coaching, through NLP, through color healing, dowsing. I mean, she just does everything. EFT tapping, holistic nutrition is just wonderful. I'm so happy. And please, can you introduce yourself more to the audience, Lisa?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on and yeah, listening to this podcast and having a little chat. Yeah, I've got a few little bits and pieces in my in my toolkit, don't I, Thomas? And it's because, like you said, I went on my own healing journey. So I was brought up in, a beautiful, loving family with, my grandparents. One side of the family came from Poland, hence my maiden name, which is Gumieniuk, and the other side, my mum's side, came from Italy. My grandparents worked really, really hard. They were also in the war, so that affected them. And I have loving parents who support me, and obviously went to school and then went into the workforce. And so I did the very best that I could, and just like worked really hard. And I took on that mentality from my parents and from my grandparents, because being migrants, it's all about working hard and creating this life for the family and a better life. And so I just went about working and working hard, and then I worked myself into the ground. So there's a lot of, I guess, chaos and a lot of stress and anxiety that I also placed on myself. And then in 2013, I became unwell. So at the beginning of the year, and even halfway through the year, I had a great corporate career of kicking goals in my projects, performing and delivering at work. I won awards. I won Staff Member of the Year, Outstanding Achievement, and I was marrying the man of my dreams. And so I had all these things that were happening, and I really felt like I was on top of the world and I was unstoppable. And then I guess, or so I thought, I guess the reality was, I kept coming back to that. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I was overworking myself. I was depleting myself in terms of, nutrition. I was exhausted. I was doing 10 hours worth of intense exercise per week, included a 40K cycle on a Saturday morning with 2 boot camp sessions thrown in there. And I literally had no downtime. you know, in hindsight, my mind was on overdrive, my body was exhausted and depleted, and I had no idea how to process my emotions. And this thing called spirit, whatever that was, I was running on empty. I didn't know what self care was. I didn't know I knew that I didn't want to meditate, but I kept pushing and pushing and pushing myself until my body, my immune system ended up in tatters. So I fell ill with glandular fever. I had an autoimmune disease, and then adrenal fatigue and Lyme disease and heavy metal toxicities and shingles. And I had a car accident in there as well. So, the list goes on and on and on. And I was no longer able to go on. And I'd also hit rock bottom. So it was a depleted mind, a depleted body, and a depleted system. And, I was unable to work for 6 years. So there's lots going on there.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like really some major chaos in your life, at that breaking point. And I like the way you use the word spirit, because I feel like when we don't listen to our minds, we don't listen to our bodies, it comes down to spirit just kicking us in the face sometimes. And then we listen, right? And that sometimes manifests as illness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Disease is dis-ease. And that dis-ease can be in the mind, in the body, in the spirit, because, we're not just a physical body. We're made up of those different components. And what happens with dis-ease or illness is that it actually happens in our energetic body and our energy field and in our thoughts before it comes into our physical body. So that part of spirit and emotions is something that is underestimated and undervalued, but is so important in that, that healing journey. And that can often be where that chaos comes from in people's lives. So for me, it's very much a chronic illness journey. But entwined to that is mental health and is emotional health. And I guess if we talk about stress, stress affects, in one study by the Center of Disease Control in America, identified that stress impacts 90% of people, 90% of disease is a result of stress. And another study by Dr. Bruce Lipton identified, I think it was 95 or 98% of disease is as a result of stress. And who isn't under stress these days? And, stress can be physical stress, mental stress, and emotional stress.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, stress is a killer, really. And I think everybody is stressed to the max, with everything going on right now. And stress is just a key word, I think, because it really does damage the organs, creates so much emotional blockages, right? And all that stuff is so connected. That mental emotional piece is really what causes the disease in my opinion, And I want to I'm curious on how did you get Lyme disease and how did that come about and what's your journey with that specifically?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Thomas. And I think it's really important to share these stories, because through these stories, someone might be listening and say, "Oh, I've experienced part of that," and that there is hope. So I started off with some symptoms. So those symptoms were lack of energy. After coming back from my honeymoon, I got back into my boot camp, and people were overtaking me, and I'm thinking, "What's happening? I don't have the energy. Usually, I'm at the front of the line. I don't know what's going on." So it really started from a physical manifestation of energy levels, and that chronic fatigue then crept in. But within a few weeks, I remember I was at work reading a 2-line email. It was a really simple email, and I could read the words, but they weren't actually sinking into my brain. And it was a really, really scary thing. I thought, there's something wrong, something seriously wrong here. Like, there's something wrong with my brain. So this sort of fear crept in, and then all these symptoms, one after the other. I started to have, gut issues and whatnot. So it literally started off with these symptoms, which was then a few weeks later diagnosed with glandular fever. And then when I didn't recover from the glandular fever, I was then diagnosed with my first autoimmune disease, which was Sjogren's syndrome. And then later on, some autoimmunity with thyroid. So it actually took me 2.5 years from that point to be diagnosed with Lyme disease. And so I saw over 20 practitioners, from, doctors, naturopaths, traditional Chinese medicine. Like, I tried all of these different things because I knew, like, something wasn't right. You don't go from being really well to being really unwell and not being able to walk upstairs and, not being able to walk upstairs without having to take a breath, or, to be housebound and to not be able to process things and, have the cognition functionality, have the functioning gut, and not have all of these symptoms. So it was a really challenging journey to that point of diagnosis. But I guess that point of diagnosis to some extent was the start of the journey. And obviously, I'm living in Australia over here, and it's not very well known. And the government sort of says Lyme disease is not here. And I think ultimately there's a little bit of a technicality there, because there are a lot of pathogens that are making people sick. So, I wasn't knowingly bitten by a tick until actually a few years ago. So I started to get better on my journey, and then I was bitten by a tick. And then I got shingles at the site of that tick bite. And then I had shingles for 10 months. And that kind of put me back into bed and challenges with not being able to function again. So I went on this really big journey with Lyme disease and the diagnosis, and trying different methods and modalities to get well. And, some of those foundations, when we talk about the physical body, it's the gas that we put in our body. It's the petrol or the diesel, the fuel. What air are we breathing? What food and water are we putting into our body? Because, I had a friend whose car they put the wrong fuel in the car, and literally 300 meters up the road, the car conked out, and they needed to tow it, get it towed, 3 hours back to Sydney, and get it. Get the fuel pumped out and the correct fuel pumped in, because they accidentally put in the wrong fuel in this brand new car. Now, we as humans are the same. And so that fuel, as I said, is the food that we eat, the water that we drink. And so one of the first things that I started to do was look at what food am I consuming and what fuel am I putting in? And we can go for a long period of time without putting in the right fuel, unlike, this episode with this car. So I was very much focused on the physical fuel, the food that I was eating, what therapies or therapists do I need to see? Is it colonics or enemas or, hypothermia, which is like heating the body up? What supplements do I need to take, or what, medications do I need to take? What are the best practitioners that I need to be seeing? What do I need to do? Acupuncture. Do I need to have massage or lymphatic drainage? So, there's lots of amazing therapies that can help support us with that, what physically is happening in the body. But what I had missed for such a long time was the emotional and the spiritual aspects, because I didn't know what to do and how to get there and how to, I guess, like process it, and who do I see? Because I didn't want to have talk therapy. For me, seeing a counselor, a psychologist was like, hang on a minute. I mean, as you can probably tell now, I love talking. I can talk, and I had friends and people that I could talk to about what was happening. But I actually needed solutions, and I needed another way outside of what I knew. And talk therapy for me was not solutions.
Wow. So really it came down to the emotional level, mental level for you to overcome the Lyme disease, to overcome a lot of other stuff going on inside your body. And what's amazing is a book that you showed me, The Secret Language of the Body.
Mm.
I had to get a copy once you showed me that. I was like, I gotta get that book. So I actually got it in the mail yesterday,
Great.
and I was reading through it, and I was like, oh, what do I have? Okay, I have this. I have a gluten intolerance. Let's see what that says. And it's just like, oh my God, that's me. So it's amazing how much our body talks to us, and if we just listen to our body, it's going to tell us exactly what we need, right?
Oh, yeah, and you've just said it so beautifully. What we don't realize is that our body holds and stores information. There's a beautiful book called The Body Keeps Score. And the body does exactly that. From the moment that we're born, it remembers everything, who was there, what they were saying, what they were doing, who was at our first birthday party, did we have a cake, what did it taste like? Um, and this might sound a little bit woohoo, but our body does remember, and we have the ability to access all of this. It's stored in our subconscious and in our cells. But because we've become, and I was like that as well, so left brain, I was functioning from my left brain, not the creative side or not the subconscious side. And I didn't know how to access that side, and I didn't know how to access my subconscious, and my emotions. And so these emotions get stored in the body. And like you said, like this body, the secret language of your body, what's happening physically, there is always an emotional component. It might be the emotional component causes the physical thing, or it might be, the physical thing that's happening in the body might be sort of driving the emotion. So with, Lyme disease, for example, for me, and the other chronic, infectious illnesses that I've had, I may have been bitten by something and I may have contracted Lyme disease. But and these things are physically happening in the body, but there's very much emotional components associated with that, and it's all tied in. So what was keeping me stuck? I was kind of saying it as a question, but it's actually a statement. There's a lot of emotional components that were keeping me stuck in, illness and in this chaos and in this stress and anxiety. And I needed to work at an emotional and a spiritual level to help release that.
Yes, definitely. It's all about holistic wellness, and I kind of want to touch on some of the techniques that you use to overcome that. And I think one of the first things I'd love to dive deep into is the EFT, or the emotional freedom technique tapping. And can you just tell the listeners what that is, how it like really helped you, and all that?
Yeah, thank you. EFT, also known as emotional freedom techniques or also known as tapping, is absolutely incredible. It is an amazing therapy and an amazing tool that you can have in your own toolkit. And it can be really, it can be used really simply and you can learn how to do it yourself. Are you actually open to a little bit of an exercise here, Thomas?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great, and the listeners can take part as well. Just make sure that you're in a place where you're not driving or using machinery, and not doing something that because to some extent it is a form of meditation. And so, what it is it's tapping on different parts of your body with your hand. And it uses acupuncture. So, for those who have or know about acupuncture, acupuncture uses needles on certain parts of the body uh, in acupuncture points. And acupuncture points are based on meridians or energy lines that run through the body. And so, what's stored in these energy lines, these meridians, is energy, is, emotions, and you know our emotions and our thoughts get stuck in our body, our organs, our tissues, our meridians. And meridians have been around for 5,000 years through traditional Chinese medicine. We can't physically see them, but we know that they're there. And so you can do your own acupuncture, as I said, using your hands. And it gets that energy moving and flowing. It gets thoughts, your thoughts start to change. It also accesses the subconscious mind, but it also accesses the limbic system in the brain. And the limbic system is where our emotional center is. And so if you're, overwhelmed or you're stressed, it can help reduce that stress. So people will often physically feel things moving and shifting and feel really relaxed. I did this on a podcast the other day, and the person said straight after, they said, "Oh my goodness, I feel so relaxed. I literally want to go and have a nice little snooze." And that's what it can do. So, yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so yeah, last time we talked, we kind of met up for a little bit, and you reminded me about the tapping because I used some through my healing journey, and I kind of honestly like I knew about it, I've done it, and I kind of forgot about it. But since last time we talked, I've been tapping every day, and actually I've been doing like a my tapping routine in the shower with like hot water, and then go into a cold shower and Wim Hof stuff, kind of all together, right? But the tapping has been like, wow. I'm so happy you brought it back to my attention because I just want to reiterate what you're saying here is that the tapping I think is revolutionary. Like this is probably one of the most important things that humans know about right now, in my opinion. Like it is huge.
Oh, absolutely. And it's also evidence based. There's over 140 clinical trials that have been done on emotional freedom technique, their impact on PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, stress, anxiety, overwhelm. It reduces cortisol. There's a beautiful study that was done on, I think it was about 400 participants or 200 participants over the space of 4 days. They were doing an EFT workshop, and they had a number of tests done at the beginning of the workshop and then at the end of the workshop. And so they tested things like saliva cortisol, and that decreased, as I said, by I think it was 39 or 43%. Depression was about the same. And this immune marker called SIG-A had increased by 114%.
Wow.
Happiness had increased by about, I think it was about 35 or 40%. Blood pressure had reduced by about 6 or 8%. So there's some really, really incredible statistics. I mean, when we talk about, the statistic that I shared earlier was stress. 90% of disease is caused by stress, and stress is the cortisol hormone. Impacts stress. So if we can reduce the cortisol hormone, our stress levels, and then we can increase our immune system, and that's where things come out of balance. In our immune system, that's where also we become sick. So if we can support, our stress levels, our immune system, then we're going to be so much healthier. But I love what you said in terms of tapping and the shower, and also doing Wim Hof. I have cold showers every morning as well. because that impacts the immune system. But I add that tapping component in as well, Thomas. So it's so great to hear that you've added it in. So I will literally, when I move the hot shower to, because I do hot, cold, and hot, cold, I don't just do cold. When I'm turning it over and it's going onto the cold, I'm literally tapping on my collarbone, and I just tap and tap and tap for that period of time that I have it on cold. And it really actually helps me get through. Without it, I really struggle to get through that cold component. And it's like you said, it's been a real game changer for me in that process.
Wow, that's so amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that. Actually, tapping through the cold. I love that. And so, we're gonna do an exercise. Let's do it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so for those who are listening, so what I'd like you to do is tap on your karate chop point. And the karate chop point is on the side of your hand where your little finger is. So on the soft side of the side of the hand, underneath the little finger. So when we tap for 5 to 7, 7 to 10 times. We don't count it. You just tap and go, okay, I've done that now. And then the next point we're going to move to is on the top of the head. So right on the crown of the head. And we tap there for 5 to 7 times. The next one is going to be on the inside of the eyebrow. So the inside of the eyebrow, just above the nose, and just choose one side of the body. It doesn't matter what side, and just tap at the beginning of the eyebrow there. And then we're going to tap on the outside of the eye. So the other side of the eyebrow, on the bony bit outside of the eye. And then we're going to tap under the eye, on the bony bit under the eye. And then under the nose. And then the crease of the chin. So just below the lip. And the next one is going to be the collarbone. So where the collarbone is, you find that little bit in the ridge just under your neck. There's a little ridge there. And then go down by about 1 inch and off to the side. And generally, you'll find it feels like a little bit of a soft, squidgy bit. So we want to be tapping in that spot, that soft, squidgy bit. And again, you can use one hand or you can tap on both sides. If you tap on one side of the body, the body actually balances out. And then the last part is under the arm. So it's generally in line with the breast. So it's not in the armpit, it's a few inches down on the side of the body there. And then we breathe in and then we breathe out. So what we'll do is we'll do a round or so of tapping. And so I invite you to have a think about, is there something that you feel a little bit stressed about at the moment? And just to rate that stress level out of 10. So Thomas, is there something that you don't need to share it with me in terms of what it is, but on a scale of 0 to 10, is there something that you might be feeling a little bit stressed or distressed about?
Yeah, maybe overworking a little bit lately. Like, yeah, I got to work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that is a lot of people with what's happening at the moment, that overworking, definitely comes into play. What, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being stressed, 0 being neutral, where would you put that?
Oh, probably a 6, I think.
A 6. Okay. Is there somewhere that you might feel it in your body?
Yeah, like right shoulder blade.
Yeah, right shoulder blade. And is there a color associated with that?
Oh, it's red.
It's red. Beautiful. So, we talk about the body giving us various messages. And so like colors are a really good one as well. And what is there a texture associated with that redness?
It's kind of grainy looking. Yeah.
Yeah. And how big is it?
Probably the size of a softball, maybe.
Yeah. Does it have a smell?
Hmm. No, no smell.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do some tapping, and with tapping, we actually say what's happening. So, if it's overwhelm or if it's stress, we actually use those words. So, what I'd like you to do is repeat after me. So, you're going to start tapping on the karate chop point and then repeat after me, even though
Even though
I have this overwhelm
I have this overwhelm
in my right shoulder
in my right shoulder,
and it's a 6 out of 10,
and it's a 6 out of 10,
I'm open to releasing this now.
I'm open to releasing this now.
It's safe to release this now.
It's safe to release this now.
Even though I have this overwhelm in my right shoulder
Even though I have this overwhelm on my right shoulder,
and it's a 6 out of 10,
and it's a 6 out of 10,
I'm asking my body to release this now.
I'm asking my body to release this now.
Even though I have this overwhelm in my right shoulder
Even though I have this overwhelm on my right shoulder,
and it's red in color,
and it's red in color,
like the size of a softball,
like the size of a softball,
I'm asking my body to release this now.
I'm asking my body to release this now.
It's safe to release this now.
It is safe to release this now.
And then we move to tapping on the top of the head and then repeat whatever emotion comes up for you. So it is the feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
Yeah, stressed.
Yeah. Tapping on the inside of the eye, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
Tapping on outside the eye, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
Tapping under the eye, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
And under the nose, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
The crease of the chin, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
And the collarbone, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
Tapping under the arm, feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
And taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And we'll take another breath in and another breath out.
Yeah.
So just, yeah.
Wow. That pain is like totally gone. That is crazy.
So no feelings in your right shoulder now?
No, it feels loose and like, oh, I'm actually getting an energy shift. Wow, there's a lot going on there. Wow, my whole body's feeling it now, just kind of releasing and moving around. That's amazing. Oh, I needed that. Thank you, Lisa.
Beautiful. And so, what's the color there now?
It's almost yeah, purple actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And what texture is it and what size is it?
I think it's kind of like that whole shoulder blade, more of like it's not so much a sphere anymore. It's just kind of like relaxed, flat shape of purple. It's really smooth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. And everyone reacts and responds very differently to the process. And it's really about ensuring that the words are specific to what's going on for you. So, it was that red color, it was that right shoulder blade. And, the body, we talked about earlier, the body keeps score and, the language of your body. And so for you, sometimes we think we need to go into a story to clear and process it, and sometimes we do, and we need to learn various lessons. But other times we can do things in a creative way, and so in this way it was creative because we're using a lot of those colors and the right shoulder blade, and that in itself was really helping to release it, and you actually had physical sensations of movement through the body.
Yes, definitely. And I've done a lot of qigong and other technique like Nigong and other things with the energy in my body. And it's definitely like, yes, there's definitely stuff moving around. Like it feels like acupuncture, really. Like when you get acupuncture, it's like, yes, there's stuff moving around. It's amazing.
Mm. And you had mentioned shoulders, and so shoulders is often we spoke about there's always an emotional component to things that are happening physically in the body, and so shoulders can be about, and these are generalizations, but you knew specifically about what your overwhelm was about, and the overworking is it's about shoulders is often about carrying the world on your shoulders and holding too much strain and stress and worry. It might be feeling insecure, unsure, frightened, overwhelmed. And often droopy shoulders, for example, might indicate lack of joy or seriousness and focusing on problems rather than solutions. So it's really beautiful that, you can move and shift the energy, the emotions that are associated with it, and also the stories.
Right, right. That's what's so amazing is with my NLP coaching stuff that I've done with my clients, and I love NLP so much, and I think this really is tapping into that subconscious where you can, you know, change your beliefs about something just through tapping. That's what's it's. I really liked you said earlier when we met about NLP being somewhat intrusive, and I would agree with that. It's a process, right? To do a mapping across, or to do a limiting belief swap, or a timeline therapy process. It's deep intellectual. It's intrusive. I really like that description. Not in a bad way. It just takes time. Where the tapping, I think I really do believe you're tapping into that same possibility just through acupuncture by yourself.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful to use both tools and techniques together. So I do a lot of obviously EFT with the NLP, and I find that the results can come about even quicker because the tapping. So when you're doing NLP, it's very much using the mind and accessing the subconscious mind and those deeper parts of you. But we, but the tapping obviously gets the energy moving and flowing, like physically moving and flowing. So where things might be a bit stuck, that process just can help move it even quicker. But also because it impacts the nervous system. So, we go into that fight, flight, freeze mode often, and that's often, when emotions get stuck or those limiting beliefs that we talk about, and helping people to get to where it is that they need, that there is this stuckness. And so EFT helps to reduce that fight, flight, freeze mode. It helps to take you out of that mode. And so using it in combination can be really beautiful and really powerful because, people might be sort of stuck in some of those stories, but that tapping combined, you're like, wow.
Right. And that's just amazing. The NLP and tapping, like, yes, I love it. And I'm curious on, how did this tapping specifically help you through your healing journey? Like, what are some of the things that really changed here for you with the tapping in your personal story?
Yeah, it's something that I use every day because of the number of years of chronic illness and and not feeling well and being very much stuck in that and stuck in that story. And there are still, I get some various symptoms sometimes. The last few days actually have been a little bit challenging for me, and it can be very easy for the brain to go into those stories of, oh, I'm sick again, or I'm never going to get well again, and that negative self-talk when there's some toxicity in the body. But the EFT helps to break that down. And you can use it because you can say exactly what's happening in terms of, like, I'm feeling really terrible. Like, why am I feeling really terrible? As opposed to just saying to yourself, I just need to think positively. I just need to think positively. You're thinking negatively and saying these negative thoughts for a reason. So it really helps to move and shift those and break those layers down. And so for me, it was a real eye opener that I could actually say exactly what I was thinking as opposed to having to think positively. Because when you are stuck in that negative mindset, you want to express it, and there's a disconnect between this positive thought and how you're feeling. And so it really helps to bridge the gap because you clear, like we did with yourself just then, those negative thoughts and emotions and feelings. And then when they're cleared, then you can actually start to imprint or bring into play a lot of that positive stuff, like, oh, actually, maybe this is temporary, and maybe I'm going to be able to get through this. And the body goes, well, maybe no, actually you can. You've done it before. You've been at this better place. It is possible. So it really helps to create a really deep shift, and it's something that you can do on your own. As you said, I do it every morning in the cold showers. That helps me to to get through those cold showers, when sometimes my brain is saying, no, maybe just do it tomorrow.
Right.
And I say, no, we're doing it today, and this tapping is going to help and support me.
Oh, that's so awesome. And one of the other techniques I saw that you employ is the three T's. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the three T's is thoughts, trauma, and toxins. And so, they are what creates stress. So T being thoughts, what is it that we're thinking? And so you can use, tapping, for example, to help shift a lot of those thoughts and break those thoughts down, because then those thoughts become become beliefs, and then they also become emotions, which are more ingrained, and you actually feel the emotions in the body. So you've got the thoughts, then you have the toxins. And so, toxins could be, emotional toxins. They could be toxic relationships. I mean, they can also be toxic thoughts. They could be toxins in terms of, the air that you're breathing, or the food that you're putting into your body, or, the water. So, toxins can be physical, they can be mental, they can be emotional. So, really working, with yourself or with clients to identify what are those toxins that are creating that dis-ease for you, whether that be, that physical disease, mental or spiritual dis-ease. And then, traumas. What traumas have you experienced in your life that are, stuck in your body or keeping you in this situation? And so traumas, there's two different types of traumas. There's what we call little t traumas, and there's also big T traumas. And a lot of people associate traumas with, abuse, or, severe car accidents or severe illnesses. And when my practitioner had actually said to me, Lisa, I think you have trauma in your nervous system, I thought, oh my goodness, that was one thing that resonated with me to the core. And I said, yes, I think I do. But I don't feel like I really have these traumas, because, I've had a really good family upbringing. My husband has supported me. We've had finances to support a number of the therapies that I've been doing. So I feel like I should be really grateful. I don't feel like I should have these traumas. But there's also these little t traumas. I mean, I had a car accident, and that can impact the nervous system. So that's probably actually a big T trauma, where I was just sort of downplaying it, saying, "Oh, trauma shouldn't really affect me." But our mobile phone going off every single day, or emails coming through, our work demands, what was happening in your scenario just now, Thomas, that's a trauma. And when you have it every single day, it's chronic, traumas, and chronic impact on the nervous system, and on that fight, flight, freeze mode, and on the cortisol. Constant stress is a trauma. So really identifying what those traumas are. And as we said, the body keeps score, and the body knows and remembers. And for some people, I've worked with 40-year-old men who are able to go back, you're talking about along that timeline. And, there was a trauma of when he was just born, literally a few hours after being born, he was able to access and, have this sense of knowing about something that had happened to him. But, we also talk about, spirituality being really important. And for some people, that trauma could be generational trauma, it could be ancestral trauma, it could also be, for those who are open to it, it could be past life trauma. Or, for some people who may not believe in past life, it might be whatever's coming up in their mind and whatever they're visualizing. It could be a visual representation and a creative representation for what's happening in the brain and the body.
Wow, yes, the three T's. I love that so much, because that really does, I think, hit, mind, body, spirit. What are your three T's? What are we working on today? Like, I just love that. That's such a powerful tool. What are the three T's? And I'm going to take that and use it on myself. I love it. And yeah,
Yeah,
and
great.
like you're speaking about the past life regression and timeline therapy, and And I do believe that the past life stuff is possible for some people. I've witnessed that with my own clients, and things like Michael Newton's work as Live Between Lives is really interesting. I love his work, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all. Are you?
I've heard of him, but not in detail, no.
So it's more of, a lot of hypnosis, a lot of hypnotherapy with thousands of clients and having all similar experiences of, between lives going to this council and actually choosing the life that they want. So it's almost scripted out, like the injuries they're going to have, the love losses they're going to have, how they're going to die, like all that stuff. They choose it before they reincarnate. And, that is like some super woo woo stuff, right? But these
Yeah.
clients, they all talked about it, like they thousands of people talked about this, and Michael wrote a whole book about it. And it's just really interesting that if we go deeper in the spiritual realm, and get really woo, I think there is some stuff like past life regression happening for some people, or past life traumas that are real for people that we're carrying around that we don't even know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced it myself, and being very left brain previously, and working in corporate career, and sort of growing up with like working and working hard and using the mind. Uh, then that creative side and this hypnotherapy and accessing the subconscious mind and past lives, I was like, what? No, this isn't possible. I'm creating this story, or this imagery. And the more that I experienced it, the more that I realized, actually, no, I'm not creating this is real, and other people are experiencing it. And it is amazing. I mean, I do a lot of soul work as well with myself and clients, and even clients who are starting out and haven't experienced a lot of this. Often the sessions actually take them there. When obviously I help to guide them. We do tapping that calms them down, gets them into that subconscious, and then I ask them questions, and they go on this exploratory journey. And the lessons, the imagery that they have, it's really beautiful, and a lot of it does end up being soul related. It might be they feel and envisage white light, or feel like they're connected to there's this feeling of oneness. It's incredible and very powerful. And it can be, as you said, that these things that have happened previously, or these thoughts, or these imageries, these past lives, um, have been keeping us stuck in this life. And I've seen that happen, where going through this journey and this transformation, people just have this um, the word I was going to use, it was awakening, but that's a little bit woohoo. But it is. It's this, I guess this clearing, or this cleansing, and I guess the terminology that I use is chaos to clarity, and it really is this clarity.
I love that. I love that so much. And, I think time is starting to get to us here, but where can people find you, and how can they connect with you, and all that?
Thanks, Thomas. My website, which is lisagumieniuk.com. That's Lisa Gumieniuk, Gumien for Nelly, IUK.com. Facebook page and Instagram, which is Lisa Gumieniuk Coach, and Facebook group, which is Chaos to Clarity Reset.
Nice. I love it. So all that stuff will be in the show notes for all the listeners. And, feel free to reach out to Lisa, because she is just an amazing person, an amazing journey. And, I really hope you come back on the show, because I really feel like we just tapped the surface today.
Yeah, literally tap the tap the surface. Yeah, absolutely. That would be wonderful. It's been so great to chat with you and the beautiful audience, and I hope that they've experienced something, or it's popped a little thought in there that maybe there is some hope, and maybe that they can gain some clarity in a way that, if they're going through something that is chaotic and thinking, oh, I don't know if this is possible. I used to think that it wasn't possible, but going through this beautiful journey and having all of these experiences, it is possible. And I know, Thomas, that you've shared your journey, part of your journey with me, and you hadn't realized that this was possible, and you have some beautiful tools and techniques in your toolkit as well, to be the amazing practitioner that you are.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That means a lot. And wow, thanks. And any last thoughts before we get going?
Yeah, just reaffirming that chaos to clarity is possible. And if you feel that it's not possible, or you don't know how to get there, then reach out. Reach out to Thomas, reach out to myself, or another practitioner that's on Thomas's podcast. That where they share things that really feel like they resonate, because we've both been in those situations where we've been stuck, and yes, we do absolutely have the tools within us, but we often need that guidance to help us to access those tools.
Oh, yes, I 100% agree with that. If you're stuck, just reach out because there's so many practitioners out there that can help you, and I love that. And for all of you out there listening, I just want to encourage you to go out there and find your sacred ancestry and really dive deep into yourself and find some unconditional love and compassion and take a deep breath. All right.